One of the reasons why he was a very good college basketball coach and one of the best that's ever taught at this level was because he was able to find the most in all of his players and put you in those situations and get the most out of you and make you the best that you can possibly be.
Doc coached his hardest during the practice, and in the game, he would let you see his greatness by the way his teams played. Unselfish, disciplined, with the interests of teammates first, extra passes, inspired defense, hustle plays, and never showing up your opponent or referee. Doc would sit down and watch his team perform with a still mind, ready to make adjustments if needed.
He had an amazing ability to motivate. I can still see him out on the practice floor to this day with his arms folded and his teeth clenched and said, "Work, work, work." And if we were dogging it, or even if we weren't dogging it, he always pushed us to work harder.
He wanted perfection in everything he did, and he was probably one of the best basketball coaches when the game began. He could make adjustments on the fly. I think he got the very, very most out of his kids. He was highly respected in the basketball community.
Doc was competitive. He did what really basically coaches should do. He coached his team, and when there was a call that he thought that he should complain about, he picked that call and he got up, said his piece, and went back to coaching his team.
All the work he did coaching was done in practice. I believe that Doc felt that if he can get to practice and give all us the knowledge that was necessary to be successful, once the game started, it would be easy, and we just had to go out and play of all the things and do all the things we did in practice. And he was able to sit and to maybe make some adjustments in the game, but in terms of being up and yelling and screaming at his players during the course of the game, that's not something that I've ever seen Doc do.
A strong work ethic, very well organized. His practice plans and his scouting reports had us well prepared. No team was ever going to outwork us.
Every game was scouted and planned for. Doc understood team tendencies. The other thing I remember is Doc's game journal, and not every player got to see Doc's game journal. For every team and every coach Doc faced, Doc wrote down his ideas that worked well and the adjustments he would make if he saw that team in the future. The preparation and strategy was written down sometimes years in advance. For 9 years as a player and a coach, I witnessed this beautiful mind working.
Yes, we were Division III and we played a lot of state universities, and we didn't go far and play any of the top teams, but whoever we played, we always had a winning record, and we were always feared in our level of competition. And after we graduated, and as the program grew and they moved out to new gyms, and as the players got taller and as the competition got better, he still won. And Albany was one of the, quote, Division III powerhouses in the country. And I think that still remains with the fans. I know it remains with the ex-players. And I think that what has happened since going Division I, once the transitional period was over, I think Coach Brown has continued in that respect. And I'm hoping, and I'd like to think, that some of that tradition and some of that feeling has gone forward with Doc Sauers having established that. And I really think Albany is expected to have a good basketball team because of Doc.
Doc, I'd like to say congratulations. I think this is a well-deserved event. I have nothing but the greatest respect for you, and we may have been adversaries at one time, but you were always a very respectful individual. I noticed you didn't get very many technicals, and I know that we've laughed about it. I never even came close to giving you one. You're a terrific representative of the game of basketball and for the university, and I know that we had shared some pretty tough games between us and some of the tough schools that you played here, and you sure were a fierce competitor. But I always had the greatest respect for you. And, one quick story I could never tell Doc. Johnny Catroci was the captain and a terrific player, by the way. And my very, very first college basketball game was Albany State in Hartwick. And I was assigned the game with Pete Horan. And now Doc knows the story, but I never told him until 20 years later. And with about 30 seconds to go, Albany State was down 1 or 2 with the ball, timeout, and Horan came over to me, and I expected him to give me a pep talk, young official, first time game, varsity game, everything. And he put his hands on my shoulder and he said, "Son, just remember we don't get paid for overtime." I couldn't believe he said it to me. And when I couldn't tell Doc till 20 years later when we were kind of friends playing a lot of golf together because I knew how competitive he was.
The Siena rivalry started, I believe, in 1958.
It was an amazing atmosphere. Every game that we ever played against Siena, I believe, was sold out.
We played in the Washington Avenue Armory, which was the biggest arena that was available in those days, and we had great crowds. They won the opening game, but we won the next couple.
And to be able to win 7 out of 8 games was really quite special. That was really the biggest game on the schedule.
When I was a sophomore and I wasn't playing very much, all the good players filed out.
We had 8 players on the team that year.
And Marty O'Donnell and Tim Jersick and Tom Duty were in for the second half.
They had like a 12-point lead at one time. And one at a time, one of my players was fouling out. The 3 fouled out. And the 3 reserves, who seldom played, came in.
We were down by 13 with about 3 minutes to go.
And Tom Duty made a foul line jump shot to put us ahead.
I can still see it right now.
He's the only player I ever kissed.
For those of you who don't know, that Ghislaine would drive with Doc on recruiting trips, making them a lot easier for him, only having to drive halfway or sharing that load with him, and it made his life a lot easier, ergo making our lives a lot easier as players to have the opportunity to be coached by the best mind in college basketball.
When I was coaching, and we were allowed to scout, we had to scout to see other teams play. So if I had practice and we were going to Binghamton, let's say, I would go home at noon. She would have a warm meal fixed for me, and at about however long it took to go to Binghamton, I'd leave about 5:15 or 5:30, and she would pack a lunch and we'd eat it on the way back. And we did that many times. She was scouting, and sometimes when the kids were little, they would go scouting with me, or Stephen would go scouting with me. But the family was involved. Elaine took care of a lot of players. She fed them Thanksgiving dinner a couple of times, and nursed them sometimes, always made cookies for them. And later on when we went on trips, I gave her all the meal money to handle, so when we stopped after the game, she would dole out the meal money and to the players, and she knew them all.